Alrighty, we're live. I'm not gonna show my face tonight. Really don't feel like it. I literally just woke up from a nap and I was contemplating, going back to that nap because it was good. But got brother Edward Anderson here. Is definitely taking time to talk about this. I went on a crazy movie binge. I do this every so often, and the stars aligned. Three movies that I wanted to watch were out. I went to the movie theater around 4 o'clock yesterday to catch Spider-Man as the first movie, and I didn't leave that theater until quarter to 1 a.m. So I was there all night watching three different movies: Spider-Man, Matrix, and then Kingsman. All of them were good to me. And I'm
I'm
not
here.
like a movie critic by any means, but it was definitely an enjoyable night, and my money was well spent. Ed, do you want to start anywhere on this? Your thoughts, or you want to open up?
Yeah, I can give my initial thoughts. I mean, I gave my thoughts. I'm about to, while I'm sitting here trying to find the YouTube link, share the channel, all that good stuff. So, as far as my thoughts, I didn't see Kingsman, but I did see The Matrix and I saw Spider Man.
Hmm.
I very much, and I'm gonna say this. If anybody sees this video, and I'll probably say it a couple of times throughout the video, I just saw the Batman. I know it's gonna seem I'm going left, but one second. I saw the Batman trailer, the third one. Don't watch it. Do
The
not.
one where the cars jumping through the flames and shit.
No, they just released another one like today.
Oh, really?
do
Okay.
not do not watch that trailer, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because that trailer gives away way too much of the movie.
Well, that I thought that movie looked pretty. It looked real gritty. Like it was the Dark Knight, but even grittier and kind of like grunge punk rockish in terms of the boots. Batman looked really just like he was small. He wasn't thick or strong or anything like that.
Yeah, like
Muscular.
yeah, this one actually clears a lot of that up, and it actually looks really really good.
Mm-hmm.
However, it gives away way too much of the movie. Like if you're somebody like you can tell that they put a lot of it unless they got surprises. But Warner Brothers is not known for holding surprises, like really doing that well. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just letting y'all know if y'all want to go into the second trailer is all only one you really need. And don't watch the third one. That's some of you we know how people do. They're gonna watch it anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
if you watch it anyway, you will warn it. That's all I'm saying. It looked
Um,
good. The trailer was a good trailer. It was a great trailer, but it gives a lot of the movie away. And I'm just saying. But anyway,
hey, I got Tavon joining us. Introduce yourself,
Hey,
man. T is a friend of mine, and he's kind of joining the space a little bit as well. So this is a bit of his first live stream or something like that in this space, I guess.
yeah, definitely. First one. So how you doing, fellas?
Good man.
absolutely. How are you doing? Okay, I found your because I'm trying to find your link so I can share it. All right, I got it. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
But no,
Tavon's a big
yeah, give
Spider-Man fan, and he looks like Miles Morales, which is kind of funny. Like he literally looks like Miles Morales in real life.
well,
It's funny.
yeah, well, I'm definitely glad they made money, but my initial synopsis is, yeah, I like Spider Man a lot more. Than I like the Matrix, but I can appreciate some of the things that they tried to do in the Matrix. I mean, BGS said it was like a parody. When you kind of look at it from that context, it's actually kind of funny. But some of the concepts that they introduced, they definitely set it up to like if they do another one, they could do a lot better with the other one because it's not going to be that hard to beat this one. But
Right.
some of the concepts, philosophically speaking, kind of the parody part, kind of like some of the concept, as far as what they did, and we'll discuss that. I can appreciate. And again, I saw it on HBO Max for free, so I'm not going to judge it the same way if I spent overpriced popcorn and tickets and like if I dropped $30-$40 and then dealing with people with COVID. So I'm
Well,
judging that. I did that for Spider-Man, and I got
right.
what I wanted. So
Yeah,
Well,
there's
I
that.
so we'll start off with the Matrix then. Me
Yeah.
personally, I like the Matrix. I liked the use of color in the movie. I do feel that it was a good primer and foundation for movies to come. I think it's going to be great if they did do almost like a Rogue One type feel, where in Rogue One you almost didn't even know it was a Star Wars movie. It was in the galaxy, but you didn't even know like when it was in terms of like time wise, especially as a person that doesn't follow everything in the expanded universe and all the books. So when I watched Rogue One, I was surprised when it was like right before, I think it was like before the Battle of Yavin or something like that. I forgot, BYE or something like, or
Yeah.
BEY. Um,
Yeah,
or BBY.
it was right before.
Episode
Yeah,
3, I
because
think.
they led up to the New Hope. That's what
Right.
surprised me, how that slammed right in front of New Hope. Yeah.
Yeah, bro, and that was amazing movie. Like just the final planet was amazing in terms of the look, the tropical
Yeah.
feel, and everything. So if Matrix can do the same thing in terms of this movie and start talking about the actual Revolutionary War, where all the machines started fighting one another, and then how Zion fell,
Yeah, and
and
like
so on and so forth. I mean, it's going to
flashbacks.
be great.
Yeah, if they do that with flashbacks, I mean that would be interesting. It depends on how committed I'm not a fan of the Wachowskis, never have been. It depends on how committed they are. I mean, me personally, I think Warner Brothers should just say, look, because I think they have to be involved, which is why they had them involved. Um, they just say, look, y'all can be a producer,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get a director that's really going to be committed, and then you give your notes as far as general direction, but yeah, that way you don't have to be involved. I mean, and I think they did the first movie to kind of set the tone, and they should be happier with that, given if they get a producer role, and then you're more likely to get the vision that you're talking about. Because, and it depends on how much money it makes, because it did make 70 million, which is not the worst thing in the world.
But it's
Given
not Matrix
COVID,
caliber, I guess you would say.
but given COVID, it could have been given two factors: COVID and the fact that HB people could see it on HBO Max, for free. That's actually not that bad. So it depends if they're committed, which the Matrix is a type of franchise I would imagine they would be. It just depends
Mm-hmm.
on the second one's gonna matter. They're really gonna need to do well in the second one to make a third one. But ultimately, yeah, well, I'll leave it at that, and I'll let what's called bring his thoughts, and we'll get into some of the
Yeah,
details.
Tavon, what do you think
So
about the Matrix? 'Cause,
so with the so did they confirm that they're going to actually do another one after this one already?
They haven't
Or is it?
official, but they're going to. I mean, they haven't officially yet, but they're going to. They wouldn't have did it just to do one. The Matrix isn't the type of franchise where they're gonna kind of play around with it unless it's just completely tanked.
Yeah, yeah. So like my standpoints on it. So it was, me and YG, we actually talked about it a little bit earlier, and said we saved some of the conversation for the stream tonight. Um, it was a tough watch for me. Just because I was looking for, like that, the magic of the first Matrix to kind of, come back and capture the imagination, and actually see where they were, where they could go from like where the Matrix left off, because like they were ahead of the game of pretty much everyone in film at the time when they released the first Matrix, with like the bullet time and just like slow motion stuff like that, outside of like some of I think his name was Chow Yun Fat, like who was like the one of the kung fu guys who had like a lot of bullet time inside
choreographer.
his. Yeah. And so like so that's what I was kind of looking for in this one. Now if they are coming out with another one, I would like to see it possibly change hands to somebody who wants to carry on that torch of, like Matrix, and just watch the franchise grow from kind of like from where I would say the third the third film left off. Like the fourth film, like this is a good one, introducing more characters into the universe, and
Mm-hmm.
just like YG said, the some like looking at what actually took place during the battle between like the different robot factions and stuff like that. Like if we can get a show, or even um
Yeah, like
like
if
something
they
else they
almost
going
if
going
they
ahead.
almost do like the rise of the analyst, like an animatrix series or a
Yeah,
multi-part series, and kind of branch this off into not comic books, an animated series,
Yeah,
not a show.
yeah,
I don't
like
know if
something on
it's
HBO Max too. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
that'd be nice. Like the rise of the analyst would be really cool, and how that all works and putting that together. Um, Two things I do want to talk about is just undertones, right? And then symbolism. One symbolism, probably the stupid thing to me was the costume of the exiled ones. That was just stupid. I mean, that just didn't look great.
yeah, yeah. No,
But then the use of colors, like the use of blue in the movie. I was kind of surprised that the one girl, she had blue hair, but then the analyst had blue glasses. The blue eyes of Agent Smith that he pointed out himself. The Easter egg of the bust of Agent Smith V1 getting punched in the face in the office of Agent Smith V2, and then also binary. That was like a reoccurring thing where everything's binary. So that's like, okay, that's a shout out to intersectionality, LGBTQ, and so on and so forth. So when I saw that, I was just like, okay, there's a lot of things being pushed here. Some things that I don't see and some things that I do see. And then I was just like, I wasn't trying to get too deep into it. I wasn't trying to have low expectations. I wasn't trying to have high expectations and hold it up to where it was before. But I did find it to be an enjoyable movie. And also it was cool to see those quote unquote Easter eggs or undertones. Your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, they definitely did have yes, some different messages throughout the film to actually kind of speak to some of the from what I hear, some of the tones that they had in the first one. Whereas I think I recall seeing Keanu Reeves on an interview, and someone said, like, like the first Matrix, I guess from a producer standpoint or from like the Wachowski standpoint, was like, like it was a story about actually like coming out and actually being like kind of like trans kind of thing. And Keanu Reeves said he didn't know about that, so
Right.
it was kind of funny to actually hear that come out like years later. But in this one, it was definitely more out there for you to.
Yeah.
It wasn't left to like, like kind of like assume it, like, like this is like what it is. And what you kind of saw, that like basically just them transferring of the power kind of from Neo to
Trinity.
To Trinity. Yeah.
Your thoughts on
Yeah.
that, Ed? Because some people
Well,
were like, I know Angry Man in the space was like, yo, this is a feminist agenda. And I'm like, I see that, but then I also see, it makes sense that is the quote unquote power.
Well, one thing is, number
Or
one,
Genesis of power.
like, because of my mind's eye on that stuff is always active, it gets to the point where some of that shit is. So here's the thing: you have a lot of folks that make a lot of money pointing that type of stuff out. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Angry Man, like another guy that's out there, Young Ripper, like he's at 457,000 subscribers, and I want more and more black folks to get in the geekdom and then get that subscriber money. And that is a market to point that out. Like, folks are always doing that. And yeah, that is definitely a thing. And when you look at the Wachowskis and where they are now versus where they were, just in their personal lives, and like, you can see how much stuff has changed. Because think about it, when the first Matrix came out, that was in 99. And then you got to look at a year before when the production was going on. That was 98. So even when the Resurrections came out, that was the third one. So they had to cover a lot of that stuff up under religious undertones, but you got to think of where we were. You had the Bush administration like around, and that was in its first run. So a lot of that, and then we're 20 years later. That just shows you how far we've come in 20 years, like how much stuff has moved. Like, seriously. And so as far as the agenda, I'm not gonna say they're wrong, but as far as the power thing, because there's a channel called Matrix Explained. And this is a channel that goes through everything in the Matrix as nauseam, even when the movies aren't out. So I can tell you, and they go into a lot of concepts. And I can tell you right now, the number one, at the end of the movie, they both had the anomaly power. They both had it. So as far as a feminist agenda,
well, it put it as like, it almost put it as like, okay, the woman is the core of the power, or the catalyst for the power. And I could kind of see that.
That's who they chose to highlight. And I think what everybody's looking at is the fact that she could fly. And he couldn't, but at the end they both could, and he was just sitting there. Because with him, you got to think about it. With Neo, he
could fly, but then he could also force push too. So
Neo couldn't fly at that point, but he could fly at the end. The thing is, he just needed to get his powers back because he was in a different headspace. Because the thing about it is, they were actively fucking with him versus he actually had the analyst right there in his face. versus Trinity was kind of left to the side. So when they said it's a this is what they said in the movie. They said that it was like a plug in a circuit. They both needed to be close to each other to generate that energy based on misery. But so what they said, when they brought Trinity in, is Trinity was a necessary piece because like the anomaly had got kind of spread out. And the truth is Smith has some of it too, but it's not a necessary component. He has more of a residual thing because they also had a thing about the unity between him and Smith, like that kind of yin and yang
the
thing.
trinity of it all, right? You know, the love triangle in a sense, or or Neo is kind of like the not a love triangle, but the triangle of.
Well, it's kind of like I like to think of them like Goku and Vegeta, and the energy that they create amongst each other as a rivalry, more of a yin and yang kind of thing. Which you saw
and then
that.
Frieza is always the person that is one of the common antagonists.
Yeah. So as far as I think they wanted to get Trinity involved, so they pretty much took the set and reloaded about him kissing her, him bringing her back to life, so he had to use some of the code because that's something that does not happen even amongst anomalies bringing people to life. That's not a part of the power they're supposed to have. But then again, this is how they try to rationalize it. In order to activate the anomaly in the very first movie, technically Neo died. His body kind of like, let's say his heart stopped. And Trinity, basically through faith, whatever you want to call it, was able to use quote unquote love in order to, based on what the Oracle told her and all that, to quote unquote get his heart to go, and that's what actually activated the anomaly power. Then in the second one, they flipped it, where Trinity died and her heart stopped. Same thing, except he actually reached in there into her and basically activated the code, which is technically him. Literally, you could imagine the code being intermixed. It's just a matter if they want to pursue that or not. And then they talked about love and all that shit in the resolutions, where you had Sati in the movie as well. But her parents talked about that, and you heard her kind of talking about that and using praying to bring the religion thing. So the seeds were laid. It's not like they came completely out of fucking left field,
right?
And they technically had stuff they could pull from where they could kind of make it make sense for people to want to make it. Now we know how it is in this space. They expect folks to be like, fuck this movie, feminism, die, fuck it, you're taking a it's kind of like you either fuck with Trump or you don't fuck with Trump. There is no Trump's an asshole, but I don't really like Biden either because no, it's either. That's how people want to take it. If people want to take it, they can take it, but just people want to take it there, they can take it there. I'm not here not to take it there. And to be honest with you, a lot of white boys, and I'm sure Young Ripper's going to take it that way, but it is what it is. I mean,
well, I will say this, like one, and before we, put it on to, or pass it on to Tavon Morales over here with his Avatar channel. I saw that. But one thing I saw in in the comment section for BGS and his breakdown, because I watched his breakdown right after I watched the movie. Like I got out and I was like, all right, cool. Let me listen to BGS while I wait for the next movie, Kingsman. And one of the things that one guy said, it was almost like watching a Hallmark or Lifetime movie in terms of like the love story and everything. And I was like, it wasn't that crazy. It was understandable, like quote unquote, the power of love, the power of people coming back, so on and so forth. Some things were cheesy, like why did Jada Pinkett, like even though she's 80, like I've seen 80-year-olds move better than that. Like why couldn't she be
probably because she's been fighting and shit.
Probably
in the real world,
arthritis is that bad?
In the real world, and then Zion's not an easy life, and then she's probably, because you remember the crazy dumb shit Jada Pinkett would do as a captain in the real world, let alone Matrix. That's why they had so much respect for her, because she probably ended up being like the greatest captain to ever, as far as a captain.
I'm saying the way she physically moved, it was just kind of like why couldn't she stand upright? Why couldn't she move better? Like
I charged that up.
Okay, that was one of the, I'm nitpicking when I say that, but I was just like, come on, man, like you got fucking robots running around. Like bitch should have like an exoskeleton or exosuit or some shit. But Tavon, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that goes back to like what you're saying, like like what took place up to this point, like was she horribly injured, or like what kind of relationships because like they hinted at that as far as her relationship and with I'm not sure who the woman was who was that Malona? Was that Malona?
The
Not Malona.
botanist, that was her. So
Yes. Yeah, well, the woman who was with her, so she played on a older show. I can't think of the name.
Oh,
What
I
her
don't
name
know
was.
the other chick.
yeah, I know who
Oh,
you're talking about. She played I remember when she was really young, man. She played on one of those like black sitcoms.
Yeah, yeah,
or some shit like that. I forgot which one she
yeah.
played.
But yeah. So you had what was that? Actually, that might have been Thelma from Good Times. Actually, I'm thinking about it. I think that might have been her. But yeah. So like so it's a lot of unanswered questions that took place between the third film and this film. And just like you said, like like what took place for her to end up in the condition that she was in. What, like, how did this friendship actually spark? Because the last thing that we saw was that Neo could communicate with the machines.
Yeah, and everything stopped. Yeah,
And then
because
everything.
I thought it was pretty cool how pieces of the Animatrix, where that one robot in the Animatrix, if you guys remember, there was a robot that kind of like defected, and I vaguely remember the scene, but the robot's just looking out at the ocean, and you could see that the robot has has made a choice to be with humans in a sense. And then it was cool how they introduced like, okay, these robots are with humans, because I was thrown for a loop when that happened and they picked up Neo out of the pod. And I was like, oh shit, they caught him. Fuck.
Yeah. yeah, because they left that
I
up.
said, let it see where that goes, because
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Are they gonna put his ass right back in the Matrix now? He done woke up and nowhere to go.
Right. And I mean, the robots were pretty cool in terms of them flying and everything.
Names are funny as fuck to me. See, baby. I'm like, oh my god, this is some woke shit. Like African, see, baby. Like, oh my god.
Right. Yeah. I heard that and I was just like, okay, it's a cute robot too, but it's a cute name, I guess. I don't know. Like, all right. The flying blue one at the end, that was. I want to see more of the robot designs. Yeah. I also
that animation
more like the tentacle ones as well. It's just like, okay, what is that? What is that all about? So what happened with those? I would have liked to see. Those were like really cool looking robots to me.
Yeah, no, that was probably like one of the best looking effects or most expensive effects that it seemed like they might have had on there. Like when they opened up like its wings or whatever, or and like like you could kind of see like it was like there was an image like kind of like implanted or like kind of like glazed over that blue streak on there. But it was
like almost
really
like
cool.
Circuitry or something like that. Pensive, what's good, brother? Split Spark, appreciate you showing up. Thank you guys. We're just talking about this and going through it. We haven't even gotten to Spider-Man yet. We just kind of got into the semi wokeness and some of the a lot of people. I think a lot of people had their preconceived notions of what Matrix would have been, and hey, it could have been something new, so on and so forth. I think it was a foundation for a lot of things, and I really also did like the product placement of Keanu Reeves' motorcycle brand. I thought that was pretty cool. So they had his motorcycles in there, and that's what she was driving, and it was kind of crazy, or to me, me knowing about his motorcycle brand and everything, and that might have actually been his motorcycle workshop as well. But Trinity was actually working on the motorcycles and things like that, and I thought that was pretty cool.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that's actually a cool Easter egg.
So, because I know we got because I did say I was going to be up here in an hour, but so just keep that in mind, because I do want to get into Spider-Man. I'm sure that's what people want to talk about. But as far as but ultimately, like this movie, like at the end of the day, you're dealing with the streaming era. This movie was pretty much set off to be a launching pad for a lot of other stuff. The thing that you said about them maybe doing another Animatrix and putting that on HBO Max, that's actually a really good point. As far as the woke stuff and a feminist agenda, I mean, what else is new?
To touch on what you just said about the Animatrix, I mean, I never watched the What If series yet, or I haven't watched the What If series yet, but that ties in deeply with the Universe of Madness coming out, and of course, Spider-Man, it's called No Way Home and things like that. And like, we're getting to the halfway point, so we'll stay on Matrix for a little bit. But like Spider-Man was fucking crazy. But all right. But
yeah, so that's how they're looking at this. They're looking at it. But yeah, like I said, so what else is new with the world? I mean, you like think about it. What. So my thing that I'll ask people, what did you really think you were gonna see? Like you can see the players in the movie. You see who was behind it. I get it. And again, like on the Angry Man front, it's he. I'm not saying he's wrong, and I'm not saying he's doing it just for views, because I know he really believes that, and he's not wrong. To me, it's just a matter of degrees, and that's how it is. And my thing is, when it comes to like Trinity's character, and it's like, oh, well, they did that just because of this and the one. I mean, honestly, my biggest critique of it is I don't know where they really go from here. Yeah, they can do the flashbacks to the war,
but don't forget though, like
as far as the villain, where do you go from there?
Don't forget, they're planning on everyone in the Matrix to be the one. So even Trinity being the one is not a far stretch. Like, not like the only reason I made that comment even with Angry Man is because he had said it and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And that was right before I watched the movie. And
well, I know a lot of
he's
an avatar. He's an avatar for what a lot of people like. It's not even just him. It's not him. It's not even about him. I'm just saying a lot of people think that. Like I've been getting bombarded in my comment section. Yeah, so
yeah, I watched it and I was just like, no, it wasn't that serious. And then you have to remember when he first flew in the Matrix, I forgot, was it the end of the first or second one?
It was the first.
At the end of the first one, he was like, I'm going to free everyone's mind and doing all the phone booths and stuff like that. And I was just like, bro, like everybody's supposed to be the one. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not a big deal. But I thought it was cheesy how they did fly. And then it just looks like she was just laying on a board. And I was just like, okay, yeah, y'all kind of trolling with that shit. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, I get it. And the thing about it is, like, even from a story standpoint, I don't know where they're going with that shit. I don't know who's gonna. It's almost like who can be like you basically brought in the architect, and then I mean they would have did better bringing in the Nerevengian and then the architect being like the thing for the second and third movie, like they're going after him. But instead, what they did was they kind of went straight to the architect, which kind of I do believe a lot of what BGS said. It was a FU and all of that too on the low. But then again, and you also know that they're watching these movies, like they're watching them as they get developed. So they really not paying so much attention to what's going on in their own stuff that they didn't recognize it. That's what they were doing.
Honestly, even though the architect was a primary antagonist or the primary antagonist for the last series or last trilogy, he was almost like a under, like, just I don't know if I think the word is undertone, but like he was a subplot, if anything, and he wasn't that important. Or he wasn't.
No, I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is now what they basically went right there the first movie. So what's gonna be the next threat over the next two movies? They would have did better because the Nerevengian was probably the worst part of the movie. Like as far as a single scene. So that crap about him complaining about how stuff used to be versus now with the, how social media is. I mean, a lot of that social commentary. See, the thing about it is everything was like a little bit too much. What made the first Matrix work, here's the problem with Matrix 1 in comparison to this movie. It was never going to be recaptured, the magic, because that was one of the last movies of that aesthetic. See, the Matrix was ahead of its time, but the thing is, it still had that 90s aesthetic to it. It was still a movie that was kind of like, what was Will Smith's movie, like Enemy of the State? It's still, better yet, Bad Boys 1, first Bad Boy. It had that kind of aesthetic to it, because it did take place in the 90s as far as that was their excuse for like the version of the Matrix that it was. But they didn't really do a good job of preparing people for all the extra stuff that could kind of come in. So it seems like it's almost like a completely different movie. And it definitely seems like it's completely different people behind the movie when it's not, and I knew that it would be like, okay, it's all the technology has progressed so much, thanks primarily to George Lucas, starting that off in 99, by the way. It's like you don't have to lean as much on the fighting. You can lean more on the CGI. So,
Well,
Yeah.
I'll say, actually, Tavon, I'll let you get in before we switch on to Spider-Man.
Yeah, no. So pretty much what you were saying as far as the like going back to like the was it Maravintian? That's what that character. It's funny because it's like I knew this was somebody on screen who I should have been paying attention to, but they didn't really flesh out that part of the movie or that aspect of it. Like like hey, this is Maravintian from what was that second? He was in the second one, right? So like
Yeah.
this is that main
Yeah.
badass character from the second one, and it was like.
Even a
It
third.
was like once I realized that's who he was, and by that point in time, the film, like like it was over. I'm like, they did a disservice to that
I
guy and
I
and
wouldn't
his
have came
character.
back to the fucking movie on some bullshit like
Yeah,
that.
Well,
yeah,
honestly, I wish that I wish the twins were back. I can't remember if they
yeah.
died or not. In the
No, they
second
didn't
movie,
die.
they
I mean,
didn't.
they
They
could have
kind
brought
of they
part of
left
him
it
back.
open ended, but really, no, they didn't die. Yeah, it was a reach if you, but I mean, they could have, but they left it open ended. But all it was an explosion. They went up in the air, and they
Right.
demonstrated they can float.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there was like they could like phase in and out of their like almost like an astral form
Yeah,
with
and
the
that's
Doctor
what they
Strange
were
and all
in. That's what they were in when the fire got them.
that.
So it was
Right.
more like checkmate, and they were out of this thing, but not necessarily like out like that. Like
All
dead.
right,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So with that, Jesse's joining us. Mr. Veal, we're going to switch to Spider-Man now. And with that, since Tavon, this is like one of his first streams here. Tavon, man, start us off on Spider-Man. Like, what are your thoughts? How do you think this ties into Miles Morales? One of the conversations we had today is that Miles Morales may be in the same universe as I think Tobey Maguire Peter Parker or Amazing Spider-Man Peter Parker. What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
yeah. This was one. This definitely one of the best Spider-Man movies, like like they've come out with. And then seeing all three of them on screen at the same time was
I,
just
I was I
know,
was screaming when I was like, Toby!
yeah, yeah. Like,
That was my
and
childhood.
yeah, and so like yeah, you saw that like the little meme I sent across to that, like just like it's pure joy. It was like it was a fun
Right.
movie overall. Like it seemed like the plot of this one is actually it was like all of them are thought out, well laid out, but this one is actually kind of like that coming of age story, like where it's like we've watched this guy
He had
pretty
to
much
grow
as a
up.
kid, and we've watched him grow up at this point, and it's like now, like like he's really in a world where it's like like when you get out of high school, stuff like that, you've been this person for so many years that people know who you are. When you get out of high school, that's pretty much all gone to the wind, and that's kind of like what they did with his character in this standpoint, but from like a whole world perspective, where now he has to kind of get himself back out there
Yeah, like
and
a
make those
stripping of the
connections again.
innocence, the naivete, especially the second movie, and what he did in that one with Mysterio and giving him the glasses and being duped.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah. So this is like definitely him going becoming his own person, which we kind of saw a glimpse of that at the end of the film when like he had the new suit and everything. But to go back to the Miles Morales, that's definitely something I'm looking forward to in the future. Like a live action version of that guy on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like like we don't have Black Panther's kind of like up in the air right now with like what they're going to do as far as with that character, whether they're going to recast it or like who knows what they're going to do there. But this, like, I'm looking forward to this just for my kid's standpoint. Like like there's like like Chadwick, like it was their first kind of like black superhero that they could actually see
Mm-hmm.
in a series of films, and then also like cartoons and stuff as well. Whereas now, like hopefully we'll get something with like like a younger kid version of Miles Morales that the next generation of our kids can actually see, and they can kind of grow up with him the same way other people have had opportunities to grow up with, like the Tobey Maguires and Superman, Christopher Reeve, Superman, stuff like that. So hopefully, like like he is inside one of the either Amazing or Tobey Spider-Verse, and we can kind of see that character take fruition.
Yeah, because they really do tie in and start talking about the different universes in Far From Home, and talking about I'm from universe 616, and I'm from universe I think 83 or something like that. and then 616, and I was just like, oh, okay, those are like legit comic book universes. Jesse, I'll let you get in, and then Ed, I know you got some stuff to say too. So, Jesse, man, have at it, brother.
What's going on, brothers?
What's up, man?
Funny I seen you stream, man. I was just rewatching the new Matrix for the second time. But as far as Spider-Man, it was definitely the best Marvel movie of the year. I would say even better than Shang-Chi. But,
I haven't watched that yet. I do want to watch that.
Yeah, it was good.
Good watch. It's a good watch.
Yeah, this Spider-Man was deep as hell, man. It was also of this trilogy, I'll say all of those new Spider-Man movies are good, but this one was a much more emotional movie than the previous two. Because you had, and this is a spoiler review, right? Or no?
Yeah, no, it's full spoiler, no restrictions.
Okay, cool.
As Ed would say, weapons free.
So Aunt May was killed, of course, and that was not only was it a growing moment for Spider-Man, which they even kind of hinted to it at the movie, which but they said it in a dialogue like, hey, I lost Uncle Ben, I lost Uncle Ben, and so that's one thing we was missing from the Spider-Man that all the previous Spider-Mans have had pretty much is that tragedy to kind of transform them into
that's usually the catalyst,
right?
As opposed to in this case, this Spider-Man was kind of pushed or pulled into it with the Avengers War and things like that, and Iron Man pulling him into it and stuff like that, and then of course his own stuff that he had to deal with.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of stuff to say about the movie. One of my favorite things was, just to finish that previous point. Another thing that May's death did, or at least for me, I can't speak on the other viewers, but it kind of was put in a place in the story that kind of blindsided you to the fact that you were supposed to have two other Spider-Men in the movie, right? And so for me,
I didn't expect that. I'm not gonna lie. It's like that should have been obvious, but I still didn't think that was like a thing.
Right. Like for me, it was kind of like, I kind of actually like the fact that I just wasn't expecting them to kill Aunt May this movie. It got me to a point where I actually forgot about the fact that we were supposed to have two other Spider-Man. So it's like it acted as a nice little distraction to the audience. That just shows you the good writing that they had in this movie. Where it's like, damn, you focusing so hard on this and you such in shock for this. Like they timed it perfectly. Where it's like, oh shit, I forgot about that. You know what I mean? Like it really, I was to a point because it happened so late in the movie, right? I was to a point where I started doubting that these motherfuckers don't even be here. I'm like, damn, like are they actually gonna be in the movie? Because the actors been lying for like the past 2 years. Like, no, I'm not in the new Spider-Man. Like in interviews and all that type of stuff. So I'm like, damn, are they really not up in here? And just at that point, it was like,
they came in. So all right, so Ed, what are your thoughts, man? Go at it. Like I know you got some stuff to say. I would assume you got some stuff to say about this.
Oh, my bad. Did y'all hear a sound in the background?
Yeah, you were I think you just playing. It was low though on my end. So
okay, good. Yeah. So anyway, for those, because I know a lot of people, because what I'm doing is I'm streaming this on my thing to funnel them in here, and it's got no sound over there, so everybody's coming here like, nigga, ain't no sound. What the fuck? Even though I got a message that literally slaps them saying the audio is on Young Grizzly's channel. Click the link to see it. And these niggas keep saying no sound, but whatever. But anyway. So
let me put this in. Anti-Gravity, man. I love Tobey Maguire being in the movie. Like, I don't know why I loved his Spider-Man. I love I forgot who the second guy was. The Amazing Spider-Man.
Andrew, yeah.
What's his name?
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield. I loved his Spider-Man as well. I liked him more than like say Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire. But yeah, like it was definitely like, seeing all those guys in it, it was awesome. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and I said it before when I was talking Young Grizzly, because I mean not Young Grizzly, Jesse, because we were doing a non-spoiler thing, trying to do. Hold on, you can hear me right? Because okay,
Yeah,
I
I
got
can
two
hear you.
things going. I'm like big, yeah. So we are trying to do that dance, which not give a lot away because there's a lot in the trailers, and I'm glad they made money. I'm glad they got to 1 billion. I hope they do further because I think they should be rewarded for putting something like this together, working with Marvel to put something like this together.
Yeah,
You know,
Sony
these
gave a
things,
lot up, which is
yeah,
good.
these things need to be. It's not nice. Sony didn't give anything up, but they were very cooperative because at the end of the day,
Yeah,
they
that's what I
actually.
mean. Because like, if you looked at what they did in the past, they never, of course, well, Disney wasn't really into it, but them, essentially, they signed on to Disney's way of storytelling or the MCU, and it was like making that sacrifice to where, okay, hey, listen, we're not making these shitty ass movies or making a Spider-Man every couple years just so we can keep the intellectual property
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. And
So
and
I
the,
thought that
and the
was really good
irony
of them.
is, yeah, they're gonna make more money because you got Into the Spider-Verse coming out, which because that's Miles Morales, and I think because even whether all the divisions that typically happen with people when they talk about race and all that, Miles Morales, people tend to be cool with him as long as you don't like try to replace him with Peter Parker. But the fact that they got like the Peter Parker and all that they wanted, and they still have that, he's not going to have any resistance. So that cartoon is going to do well because that was very well received. And coming off the heels of this, that's going to blow. That's that. So then you got the other movie with the fucking vampire, Morbius. So
Morbius or
so yeah,
Mobius.
so this was a move to set that up. And so anyway, without going too deeper, focusing on the movie. Here's the thing: I'm glad it got to 1 billion. Andrew, look, I like what they did with Andrew Garfield, but I think Tobey Maguire did a better job easing into what his character was as far as what the age would have been. But Andrew Garfield didn't do bad, but Tobey, I think, did a very exceptional job, especially considering how far he has been away from it. I think they did a good, like looking at the multiverse stuff, looking at Loki and stuff, seeing how they really dealt with the multiverse thing. Because one of the funny things with me is when they were talking about like they didn't know who the Avengers were or what that was, and what Scott was tripping about. How do you not know what the Avengers are?
Or
Because
no
that's
Oscorp and stuff like that too.
yeah. So I also think Jamie Foxx's character. I like how they kind of cleaned that up. I like how they made it so they did a good job. I will say this to say one thing about it: the way they landed it was masterful. Like a lot of times, even when movies are good, the landing is not stuck. Even when the whole movie is good, it's not stuck. And the way that they set it up to where nobody knows who he is, the loneliness of it, the fact that he made a decision to like not bring his friends back in his world. This is actually how they rebooted it from a business standpoint, but at the same time, this is how you get the Spider-Man that you get. That's a necessary element of it. Like he's like a single person. They explain that. They explain this is why it's
Yeah,
like
the internal turmoil and emotion of it all, so on and so forth.
yeah, so that's probably the biggest thing other than bringing the three ones together. I'll say something they could have did better was if they would have worked on a little bit better them working together, because that's probably like a once in a when I say lifetime, I mean movie thing. You're never gonna get three Spider-Man, like not in
Listen,
live
hey,
action.
I'm telling you right now, that right there is the first thing I'm fast forwarding to. And like when I get this on like streaming platforms or I'm buying this movie, like that's a done deal. But like just going to the part where they started coming together, Tavon, I'm gonna let you take this, but them coming together, if you're finished Ed, but like if them coming together and then swinging around the Statue of Liberty, that as a symbol, and just them, that was. I'm gonna stop right there. But Ed, anything else?
Yeah,
And then we'll pass
it
on to
was
Tavon.
it was good. It was definitely good. But what I would have wanted to see was more combo moves that you would never see in any other situation when they fought them. So when they were swinging, they did a really good job as far as when they started to get the hang of what they were doing working together. But I wanted to see them do combo moves with like when Electro was overpowered and stuff, and it moves that you would just never see. It was some truly video game shit that they did, and like I said, I'm gonna end it with this. I'm glad they got rewarded for something. Like, I'm glad that COVID didn't like fuck that over. I'm glad China didn't decide to be assholes and be like fuck Sony because you're Japanese. you're not getting on, because they do that sometimes with certain Sony movies. So I'm glad it worked out I'm glad this is the most grossing movie and that you can compare this because it deserved to be, because again, this is going to tell studios, look, if you give the people, and this is going back to the same thing with the Matrix, by the way, where a lot of people complain about the Matrix. If you give the fucking people what they want and you don't enter any of the woke shit, you will be rewarded. And also
the
got to do
talked about that on a video today. He's saying, hey, listen, this is like, going against the intersectional feminist woke agenda, where it's like, hey, listen, we gave the people what they want and they gave us their money.
And the last thing I'm going to say that goes right into that intersectional agenda, and then I am hopping off, is the scene where Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saved
Zendaya there.
Yeah. And how that affected him, and how she had no fucking clue. Like, why is this motherfucker just crying? I mean, I should be happy.
Right. I was like, wow, he saved her this time. Like that. I felt that.
And given what happened, where he didn't get a third movie and everything, and how they did that, and it was just left open ended. I also think too, like, I'm looking for this. That's the one character I am interested to see how they do it. Like, if they were to bring, I forget what her name is, that actress, she played Cruella de Vil, but if they were to do like a Gwen Stacy, that I would be interested to see that. I would, especially having the Miles Morales thing.
Are you talking about with the new Spider-Man?
No, I don't know about that. I'm saying, like, they already have her in the Spider-Verse, so I don't know if they're going to do that, but I would down the road. I would be interested to see what they would do with a live action. Especially if they tried to, that would be interesting if Miles Morales had like a couple of movies, and then that's like one that they brought in, because technically that they date, right? So that's kind of integral, but I don't know.
I personally don't want Miles Morales as a live action, and I'm gonna pass this question on to Tavon.
Yeah.
But I don't want Miles Morales as a live action because the color palette is just freaking beautiful in that whole movie.
They're gonna run that movie. They're gonna run that movie. As far as the Spider-Verse, they're gonna run that. They're gonna get those a couple of movies before they. Live action Miles Morales isn't coming out for like, I might argue like 10 years, maybe 6 or 7. Yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. I'll be forwarding that shit.
I could see if they.
I'm gonna be an official old nigga when that shit happens.
I could see if they did a Miles Morales, like, okay, he passes into another Spider-Verse and then he changes, but like a whole Miles Morales movie. I mean, just Spider-Gwen. I talk to Tavon about this all the time in terms of just like her color palette and what they use for her and everything else like that. How she almost radiates in terms of color. And it would be kind of cool if we could see like another, like Miles Morales could actually open up a Spider-Gwen movie, which I would be interested in, and possibly a Silk movie as well. Would be kind of cool.
I don't know about all that, but
if they did do it, it'd be Sony and not Marvel.
Yeah.
That'd be a Sony side, but that'd be great to actually have that.
So we lost Ed. His time is up on that. So I appreciate everybody that is here from Ed's channel. Thank you guys for joining this conversation. I'm trying to get to some of your questions, but we're like geeking out, so that's kind of hard. I will pass this on to Tavon. Blackfoot made this question a little while ago. He says, "Does this make Spider-Man the best trilogy, or does this make this Spider-Man the best trilogy so far?" Tavon, your thoughts?
So that's kind of tough because I can't say yes to that.
I will say better.
It's better. But if you look at the stable of villains that we had in this was all Toby's villains, pretty much. Like he had the lion's share of the villains in this movie from his films, and to me that kind of spoke to. So Toby's not my favorite Spider-Man. I think we've talked about that before. But with the people that he went up against, it took you kind of see the type of Spider-Man that he was compared to, the other two. Whereas Andrew, he had 3 villains total. Like he had 2 inside the one movie. He had the Lizard, Electro and Goblin in the film, and then he had Lizard inside the first film.
Yeah, but even with Electro, or was Electrode? I forgot the name.
Electro.
Like even with Electro, that movie was kind of weak to me. personally.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was a really good movie, and I do like how Jamie Foxx came in this movie, and I think he was a lot better villain in this movie, and I also like how they made him, they made his character fit in this new universe a little bit better.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I would have to give it to Toby, because Toby did everything on his own. Like, he didn't have any help from anybody. Really, until the very last one where Harry, kind of they've been going back and forth that whole movie, and then he helps him out later on. But he didn't have an Iron Man or a Doctor Strange or or anybody else helping him out in the film. He didn't have a special suit. Like, he did that off of just his pure strength and and just will to live, pretty much.
Yeah, he was. I guess you would say, if you're a Spider-Man purist, he's more aligned with the first series of comic books and things like that. Like, if anything.
Yeah. Oh, I think you just made me realize that I probably like Toby more than I actually thought now.
Well, listen, Toby coming back was great. Jesse, I'll pass it off to you, man. Like, is there anything you want to talk about in terms of like what we've talked about so far?
Yeah, man. I'll say on the different Spider-Man. I don't really. I'll probably say I like the newest one the best. Even though I watched all of the series, and there's things about each of them that I like, but in the actual movie, what I think was dope is that you got to see 3 different Spider-Men at 3 different points in their lives. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was real heavy what the movie did. It was pretty much 3 different age groups, 3 different points in life. Tobey Maguire was the elder statesman, if you will.
The youth pastor.
Right. Like, even it was kind of funny when they kind of went at it real quick, very briefly. Toby won by shooting a web over his web shooter against Andrew Garfield. And so it showed he was the more mature, seasoned Spider-Man. It's like he had been through everything.
Yeah, and it was crazy when they were like, so he's like, so that just comes out of your arm, and then they started talking, and then the banter between them, and then Tom Holland Spider-Man, the younger Spider-Man, he's like, yeah, but I'm just wondering, like, how does that work? Like, does it hurt? Like, that type of deal. Like, it was very inquisitive and childlike. So, and they were looking up to him about it.
Right.
And then also him saying, "You're amazing." Like, he was that older coach.
Mm-hmm. Give them that motivation. So, I think that in the movie, I don't want to say that. I would say I did. I want to say my natural reaction says I really like Tobey Maguire in the movie the most.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, it's not that he was the best actor or whatever. You just love the role that he was in. You know what I mean? Being an older, wiser Spider-Man.
I think he was great in this movie, and I think bringing him back, and even Dr. Octavius was better. Everybody was better. Like, the Green Goblin was amazing as a character, so many layers and what he did, and like just Willem Dafoe. I think that's his last name.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But him as an actor and what he did, I was like, holy shit. And then even Toby getting stabbed at the end, I was glad they didn't kill him off in that. I thought that was really cool. Like, it wasn't like, oh, okay, he died and shit like that. But he just like kind of shrugged it off like, I've been stabbed before. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, great. Because we've seen this. Yeah, and Willem Dafoe did do his own stunts. He actually wanted that. He said, hey, listen, if I'm going to come back and do that, so shout out to Smirgo with that piece. He's like, if I'm going to come back and do this movie, I want to do my own stunts. And even Doc Ock, one of the things they said about him, or the guy who plays his character, I forgot his name. He said, yeah, I'm here for the money. But he said that jokingly is what they said in his interview. But I thought, him as Doc Ock, like, he did a really good job. And I think everything came together pretty nicely on that. But Tavon, I'm sorry, Jesse, I don't know if were you finished, Jesse? I know I said a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, Tavon, your thoughts on in terms of like moving forward even with this, man? Because it's like I guess moving
Yeah.
forward with the series, how do you think this is going to shape up? Actually, let's talk about your theory or the theory that you brought to me
Oh, okay.
today about
Yeah.
Miles Morales and what universe he's in. Which Spider-Man universe is he in?
Yeah. So I was thinking, and which actually, after you actually just said something that kind of made me think that could be a kind of like a foreshadow, also just off of what Jesse just said too. Like like once Toby got stabbed, in everybody's mind, like we all like, oh snap, he's going to die. So that could be a foreshadowing actually for Toby's universe, where he could be the Spider-Man that ultimately will kick the bucket. But hopefully before that happens, he'll be able to hopefully they'll be able to introduce Miles Morales based off it, because Jamie Foxx, like he kept hinting at it. He's like, oh man, like you were from Queens and you were saving people. I just knew you were black, like
Yeah,
underneath the mask. And
and
so
that was cool. That was like a shot. That was like a really good piece. That like
yeah.
you almost be like only Jamie Foxx can do that. But like him being a comedian and even what's his name something Burris, I forgot his name, the comedian, damn it, but he played as he looks like the gym teacher in Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know. I can't think of his name. I know exactly who
Yeah,
you're
and he
talking
was just
about.
like Mysterio was right, and it's like you did that.
Yeah.
Like it was like only comedians can do these lines in the way that they did them, and it was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, and that's one of the things that actually make this Tom Holland Spider-Man, like the cast that he has surrounding him, like not even just from a Spider-Man standpoint, but just the people that are there were like like actual contributors to the storytelling of this trilogy of for Spider-Man, for the MCU's version of Spider-Man. And that's what the other two movies unfortunately was like lacking to some degree. And they like I think with Andrew Garfield, he actually has he has that comedic stick to him where he can actually land a joke, and it fit right in, just as if he was actually a comic book or a cartoon character
Mhm.
himself, the way how he kind of like landed some of the jokes in the Amazing Spider-Man series. But
One thing that I see Smurgo put in the chat here, and I think this is actually pretty interesting and has some merit. Green Goblin had
oh
a
yes,
presence on par with Thanos, and I'm gonna take how I translate or perceive that or take that. Thanos was the person that tipped a lot of hands. Like he was the not just the counterweight to the Avengers themselves, like an entire like the Avengers and like their whole them as a force or a team. Like Thanos was like one guy for a long time, and then of course he brought in the Black Order, I believe, as their name. But even with the Black Order, like the Black Order were like almost common servants. Like, yo, listen, go like hand me the remote, that type of like deal. In comparison to Thanos, where it's like I guess I just have to do it myself. I think is what he said.
yeah,
Green Goblin was that type of person where he definitely he tipped the scales, and he was everybody was on the fence for a while, especially after the Doc Ock got repaired, and I thought that was really good how he got repaired, and then Jamie Foxx was still kind of like on the mend about it, and then of course Sandman himself, he was kind of like not he like I think his name is Sandman, I forgot, but
yeah, Sandman.
is Sandman because I
Yeah.
confuse him with the mud guy from DC Comics.
Oh,
I forgot that guy's name, but he was
Clayface. I think that was Clayface and the
yeah,
and
I
the
think it was
Batman
Clayface. Yeah,
series.
and he's like susceptible to water, which was kind of like tripping me out a little bit.
Yeah.
I was wondering how Sandman got over to the Empire or the Statue of
Oh, to the
Liberty.
Statue of Liberty. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's a
thought
good
that was
question.
kind of weird. But then he started. But one thing they did is you saw a couple platforms where it's like, okay, if he was a sandstorm, he could actually make that happen. So I was like, all right, cool, mate. That's doable.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So I think that was I thought that was a pretty good piece. or I thought that was, I think that's a pretty good comment, Smurgo, in terms of the impact that Green Goblin had.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, Green Goblin. I mean, like I mean, outside like like the other two Spider-Man being there, Green Goblin was my favorite character to actually watch on the screen. Just to watch and hear William Dafoe just change from like like the his normal tone to his back is turned, and all of a sudden he's a totally different person.
Or him
Before he
stealing the
turns back
fucking
around.
donuts.
Yeah,
So the best part about this Green Goblin is that they actually listen to the fans, and that's like one of the first things he does when he's on screen is smash that motherfucking mask.
Yeah.
A goddamn helmet. And that's
Right.
that's one of the complaints that people had about his Green Goblin. So now he actually gets to show his expressions and emotive on his face, him emoting as he's acting and pretending to be the character, which I thought was really, really, really great about him. Because in the previous trilogy, the previous movie with Tobey Maguire, I mean, he was pretty much I think he was probably more Green Goblin on screen than Professor Harry Osborn or what have you, what his name is. So yeah, that was really good. And I think that William Dafoe did a really good job, man. He's definitely I hate to say it, but he's definitely, at least as far as performance wise, definitely one of the best villains, because they made him a lot more cerebral in here. He was almost kind of like a mix between a superpowered villain, because he is superpowered in this. He was superpowered in this version in this movie, but also a mix of Baron Zemo, where he was kind of psychological and kind of controlling or manipulating the other villains that were there, as well as how he was able to actually deceive Peter Parker in this particular point. So he was actually a lot. Well, he's always been intelligent, but they didn't show it. His ability to like manipulate, and stuff like that, and to deceive in the previous movies as much as they did in this movie, because he was kind of like I wouldn't say on par with Thanos, but kind of the same mindset of having the political savviness to like, okay, I'm gonna get this villain to come and ally with me, and I'm gonna give him this and all this, and he's gonna use his words to pretty much manipulate them into going against Spider-Man, even though he's trying to help him. So this was, yeah, man, Goblin, he took the cake.
And he really did. Like, if he didn't take the cake, he was the cake. He was the icing on top of the cake. Like, he really did steal the show, to me at least.
Yeah.
And I wasn't mad at it. And what one of the things while you two were talking, I was like, wow, these are really good points, where he is psychologically torn. But then if you look at his clothing, right, you already saw it when he went to the shelter, how like, oh, okay, those are Green Goblin colors, that purple and that green. Like, I remember that, the hoodie and everything like that. I was like, okay, I know this is going to come in. And what was really cool, though, is that when they started, I was like, wow, okay, the construction of this building is really crappy, because they're literally slamming each other through floors. So, okay, that sucks. But then you could see how his clothes were all torn and tattered, which also is a representation of his mental state as well. So you're looking at his clothing and you're like, wow, like his clothing is all messed up. And so is he mentally. And he doesn't he doesn't totally know who he is. And you kind of see that even at the end, where he's like, almost like a puppy dog. He's like, what did I do? What happened?
Yeah.
Am I better? Things like that. So like you could see that tornness in his clothing, which is another thing where I watched The Matrix and I was like, okay, these exile costumes are just stupid. They just look like hobos. This is kind of dumb. So when I started, I started to look at these movies for their symbolism, or that's how deep I look into it. It's not as deep as other people, but that's where my depth stops, is where I start to look at, what do these things and the colors mean? So I thought that was actually, yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Like with what you guys said, and then like I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, okay, I got to go back and watch this and see how it all progresses and see what else unfolds.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, it's definitely. I didn't even think about that aspect from the clothes part. I just looked at him like, oh, he has his original costume on, but yeah, but yeah, looking at that, like like you look into just a little bit to a little bit more things like the set design or what a character has on. Like, yeah, that's telling you two different stories of what's going on with this character, and yeah, that's definitely how the Goblin was perceived in this film.
Yeah, like when he was Professor Osborn, um, it was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type scenario. And you could see that in his clothes were all messed up. And then you see his his biosuit or his exosuit and everything like that underneath it. And then the tattered clothing, which I remember from the Spider-Man animated series that I used to watch on the WB.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that, but the Hobgoblin really did that from what I remember, and it was
yeah,
more yellow, like a mustard
yep,
color.
yeah, yep, yeah, more Halloween-esque kind of
Hmm.
costume they had then.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, there's just so much in these movies, and I wish BGS was on here, but we'll probably do another stream. But I think he's supposed to be doing a stream with Dr. Tia-san Johnson about this. I didn't see it yesterday. Maybe it was Patreon. But even with the Matrix and everything like that, and how that set design and how everything was real clean and quiet as opposed to, and then a lot lighter. They were brighter, I should say. Whereas the first movies were darker, grittier, green, a lot like really kind of green. There was like a lot of green in that movie if you look at it compared to this one, where it's like all the natural colors. There's more sunlight in there, so on and so forth. So I thought that was really like the lighting and filters that are used, they can really set the mood for you, and especially the costumes as well. I thought that was that's very, I don't know, they didn't change the costumes much in Matrix, but the costumes in or the sets in Matrix definitely changed. The costumes not so much. It was kind of the same. Like, he's always wearing
Yeah,
black and stuff like that.
yeah,
I was kind of
yeah,
surprised that they show him being pigeon-toed though. Like him in the jeans and stuff, like in terms of Neo in the jeans and him being
yeah,
about stuff. I thought that
yeah.
was
It's funny. I was listening to somebody like everybody's reviewing Matrix right now, and it's like people are just talking about like like just it just seemed like some things that they're not as polished as they were in the first three films, and like like I don't know if it could have been because of budget wise, and because it just seemed like if there had been, I don't know, if there was more money or more like like resources thrown at this one, we might not have never seen it or ever seen like something like that from a better like I would say a better production of
well.
the Matrix
I don't. I
film.
don't. So honestly, I was one thing I noticed about the Matrix, and this is what stood out, and this is how I thought about the lighting and how everything looked and how bright everything was. Um, with the Matrix, you could see almost everything, and there's a lot more wider angles, and I could be totally wrong about this, but it felt like there's a lot more wider angles, and you could see more of the character themselves, like block this user, get that out of here. You could see more of the character themselves in their full body and stuff. You saw that in the original Matrix trilogy, but it's like when I saw the way Keanu Reeves was standing,
Yeah,
when he was in the office and he was almost like confused, he looked
yeah,
really helpless. And in the
yeah.
previous movies, he never looked as helpless. Like even when he was
Not when they
even
first
when
get him.
they were trying to guide him out and saying, "Hey, listen,
Yeah,
step out the window,
yep,
step onto the ledge," and all that other stuff. He looked confused, but he didn't look as helpless as he did in this movie. And I thought that was a really good thing too, in terms of like
yeah,
showing his current mental state.
Right, and it goes perfectly with the plot. You know what I mean? In terms of the fact that he's basically been drugged for like the past however long he's been plugged back in the Matrix. He's been drugged during
It
that
says
time.
the elapsed time is 20 years in the Matrix, I think, and then 60 years real world.
Like that, yeah, 60.
Right.
Yeah, real world.
But even with that, was it 20 years? No, probably 60.
I don't know. I don't know how long he's been back in, but I just know it's we 60 years from the last movie.
Right, but there was that, but then also one thing that kind of throws the little wrench in that is because they remade him, they resurrected him, which is kind of crazy how they they did all of that, which is insane, and they showed those pieces where the robots are crawling in and out of the body and everything else like that.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool, and even to oh sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
I had a thought, but I lost it.
I'm sorry, man.
The Matrix. So I've rewatched it. Like before I got on here, I was actually rewatching it, and I stopped at about an hour and something minutes. And like the second time, I'm getting a lot of stuff that I missed the first time. One was the fact that the program actually would change his DSI, his digital self-image in a Matrix. Mm-hmm. So he didn't actually look like himself to himself, or not to himself, but he didn't look like himself to everyone else in the Matrix. So they wasn't able to find him. I really like the plot for the movie. I just think they didn't execute it well, and the movie is probably too long. But I would say like the first hour and 45 minutes is really good. It kind of lags toward the last, hour or so, to be honest. That third act when they're in the real world and stuff like that. But what they did in terms of, like, if you look at it, the first hour 30 minutes really mirrors the first Matrix when you really look at it. Like, it's kind of like think about it, the first Matrix, if you put like
the pills,
not the pills, but let's say if you had like you could run the actual movie in the same time, like this Matrix and the first Matrix. Like the first act is literally exactly like the first act in the original one, but they just add in certain things. Even with when they had the projectors or the little like the flashbacks, in the movie theater, and they also had like the little flashbacks when like certain characters meet. Like if you look at it, even that part is kind of like, okay, this is around the same time in that movie that this was happening. This was happening in this movie. And they kind of explained it. Another thing I like was the plot in general about the in the first half, you didn't really know whether the Matrix was real or not, right? So at least for me, I was trying to think like, well, damn, was the previous 3 movies actually, real? Did that actually happen, or is this some like type of dream within a dream type thing? What they're trying to do here, like Inception, or like
or a simulation, like the coffee shop Simulate and stuff like that,
right? Like
which I thought was a funny name. That's a great name, actually.
Like there's a couple movies like that, like Existence, and a couple others where it's like a what do you call it? A simulation within a simulation. So I wasn't sure if they were trying to do that. I really loved how they put the part in a 60-year time period that the machines started fighting each other I
think that's either going to be a great animatrix or a great, maybe even almost like and we said this earlier on in the chat when we went over it, but I think that's going to be a great almost like Rogue One type storyline. They can spin that off to where like you barely see the originals, or you see everybody that Neo's gone, what do we do now, that type of stuff. I think like I wish they expanded on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The whole thing about teaming up with them. I mean, I felt like that's something that I don't really remember that really being a major plot point in any too many sci-fi films to my recollection. But I thought that was a brilliant direction that they took with that, as well as the fact that it had a lot of ideas, and I think they tried to put too many in one movie.
Yeah,
like you had programs that could be taken from the Matrix, which it makes sense because Agent Smith was a program, right? But they kind of expanded on them more in the future. I think that this would be a decent reboot at least. The meta dialogue was dope. That's why I say the first act of the movie. I mean, shit, if we could have just kept that. Maybe like the first and second act, like this would have been a much better movie, to be honest with you.
Yeah, a lot of people said it was kind of, and Tavon, I'll let you get in here, but a lot of people said it was long, but I'm like, Spider-Man was 2.5 hours. Those were both 2.5 hour movies.
Yeah.
What makes a movie long, obviously, is the enjoyment of it. And you wanted it to keep on going on. So it wasn't, to me, it wasn't Isaiah says the Terminator is a prequel of the Matrix. That's hilarious. So yeah.
Like, what I was talking about when I say it's long, to kind of explain just a little bit.
Yeah, they could have trimmed the fat. I understand that. Yeah.
Right. They were doing in the same amount of time is just not working out. So it's like they had a lot of stuff I thought they could have left out, and it would have been a much better movie. Like it's like you could watch a long movie, but it has to be engaging, right? So you have to execute it properly, because there's a lot of movies that's like, that's long as hell, but you barely feel it because it's so damn enthralling,
Yeah. Sorry, Tavon. I saw your message, man. Here. Is there any last words or anything else you want to talk about or cover, man?
Oh no, I just thank you, both you guys, everybody for having me on. That's what but yeah, like the last one of the last things I was gonna say is like the difference between you can the difference between that and Spider-Man, both runtimes were, like you said, exactly the same. One of the things, just like Jesse says, like if you're not engaged with the film, then it's kind of hard to sit there and watch it. Was it Endgame was like that was like 3 hours for that movie, and it had its slow moments, but it kept the audience and people engaged in the film and make you wanted to actually get to the end without just having it on in the background and playing, which is one of the things they accomplished in the Spider-Man, this most recent one. At the end of it, you wanted to see what's going to be that end credit scene, what's coming next for that franchise. And I'm just hoping that just as big as the Matrix is, I'm hoping that they will continue to bring that that kind of fandom back to the franchise and have it continue to go on like Star Wars or even like the guy said Terminator, because those are franchises that people constantly want to see, no matter how many bad Terminator movies they make, I'm still waiting for that one good one to come back out.
Yeah, because it has the hearts and minds of so many, and it's just like, this was also, it's just like, okay, the Terminator during when it was released and its time, almost just like the Matrix at the same time as well, where a lot of this, the CGI, how real it looked, slow motion, the use, slow motion, of course, was in movies before, but it wasn't utilized the same way it was done in Matrix, especially with bullet time. And I love how the analyst talked about bullet time and how he used it, and then how the analyst was truly an analyst. He says, "I've been hitting energy numbers. I've been hitting new energy numbers every year." It was just like, wow, he's a real analyst, and this is a quota to him.
Yeah. But yeah. Thank you again, guys. This has definitely been fun.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you, Tavon. And hey, Tavon, man, listen, when you do, definitely you're a friend of the channel, but when you do get your streaming and everything else going, Tavon wants to be doing some podcasts and things like that. I don't know what your name is going to be online or anything else like that. If it's going to be like T Morales or anything like that, Tavon Morales. But let us know when that happens, man. I'll definitely share your channel, and you're welcome back so we can talk about this type of stuff in Geekdom anytime, bro.
Thank you, YG. Thank you very much. And have a good night, everyone.
All righty, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Peace.
Have a good one.
So yeah, Jesse, man. The last movie, I don't know. Did you watch Kingsman?
No, I did not.
Kingsman was a really good movie, and this will be a movie I'll get into because it seems like not a lot of people watched it. It got a 44% on Rotten Tomatoes, but then it got about 77%, I believe. 44% from the critics and 77% from the audience. or everyone else. So I thought Kingsman, even knowing that going into the movie, I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was pretty well done. There are some quirky things that happen in the Kingsman movies, period, that kind of push like, okay, this is not real, and it's kind of like, you know, it's fictional reality, you know what I mean? Like it's fiction, obviously, but there's some things that are kind of like, you know, otherworldly, or just like you just wouldn't see that. Like somebody gets poisoned and they just start puking, you know, or kind of like some of the sexual undertones where some things are forced or what have you. I thought Kingsman was a good movie, and it was actually probably, to me, it was better than the second movie in the series. The first movie in the series I thought was great, and of course that was the one with Samuel L. Jackson, and the heads are blowing up, and you know everything was, the heads turn into smoke and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Not yet. Okay, you haven't seen Kingsman yet, Miguel. This is heavy spoilers, man. We're going crazy we're going into this. But Kingsman, I thought, was a really good movie. The villain at the end and him being revealed. I won't say anything about that part, but I thought that was really good. Like having a Scotsman as a villain and how he kind of played everybody behind the scenes and everything. I thought that was really interesting about that movie. And in terms of like Ralph Fiennes and his character, and you know, I thought his son would have done more a little bit, and I thought he would have been a little bit more into the movie in terms of, I didn't expect his son to go the way he did, put it like that. So that was a bit odd in the Kingsman movies, and with Kingsman, it like there's always something like that happens with somebody in their movies, and then somehow they might come back, and you know that's just not happening with the son. So that was something that I saw, and I was like, well, okay, that was kind of weird. That's not expected, but it did keep me like, it got me not re-engaged, but I was like, oh wow, so this is not going smoothly like you would see in some movies. So
What would you put with the other Kingsman movie? Movies?
Like my idea or my thoughts on those.
No, I'm saying where would you put this one in?
Number one is, the first Kingsman movie was good. This would be a second, and then the second Kingsman movie would be a third, and it would be like a distant third, meaning that another movie can come in and continue on this path of the prequel. And J3 said this Kingsman was definitely more serious. Yeah, it definitely was. You know,
The one thing I like, which I didn't see the movie, but they had the villain in this movie, Rasputin, was it was an interesting figure if you ever read up on him.
Yeah,
And I thought that
Rasputin.
was Rasputin.
They had Rasputin. They had Marx. They
So
had Adolf Hitler.
He's always been an interesting historical figure, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and he was pretty funny, and it talked about him, sleeping with boys and shit like that, and how he was like, he had a big sexual drive and everything else like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like it was kind of weird and forced, but I was like, oh, all right. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
In
my researching him, this was way back in high school. I didn't hear nothing about him sleeping with boys, but they did say that he had a big sexual appetite, and I think that he gave like a royal chick venereal disease and stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't know if you read up on him before.
Never did.
So stuff I learned in high school was like he got into it with somebody, and he basically tried to claw his way out of ice or some shit like that. And so like when they found his body, it was like him clawing trying to get out of ice, but I think he froze to death or some shit like that. But it's like, they say he had like 9 lives, like all this crazy shit happened to him that he wound up surviving. So it's a very interesting.
That was shown definitely in the movie, in terms of the way his character, he was poisoned at one point, and he was drowned and stabbed, and he got out of it. And even me saying that, he was still one of those characters that was very interesting. Like, he was a great character as a distraction,
to who the real villain was. Even though you saw the villain, and he was behind everything, he was still a great distraction to who the villain was. Who the villain was in terms of uh, him playing behind the scenes. Rasputin took a front seat at the beginning of the movie, the beginning and the second third of the movie. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, that movie was great. Definitely a movie that, I don't think it should be a movie where people should go into it with like maybe not high expectations, but definitely it was to me better than the second Kingsman, because the second Kingsman seemed like an old school movie where things just come out of nowhere and it's like two people versus a huge organization, so on and so forth. This one was like the starting point for that organization. Also, I forgot the black actor that was in there. He was great. He was definitely great. I forgot his damn name, man.
Oh, you talk about the guy that played on Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and he was that cyborg, right?
Yeah.
Or he had the eye or something like that.
Well, I saw a clip of Rasputin and that guy fighting. I thought that was a good fight scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was actually really, yeah. Dejmon Honsu.
Yeah, I think he's Senegalese. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I know what you're talking about.
Him, like him as a him being a part of the Kingsmen and starting like even the female character that they had as the first Galahad in the series. I think she was great, and she was the nanny, and it's kind of hard to talk about it because like if you haven't watched it, but and I guess I'm not good on this part, but in terms of her as a solid female character, one thing we've talked about in the space is just like anti-wokeness and then or feminist rhetoric and stuff like that in some of these movies. But I can always appreciate a well-written female character, and I think she actually did. She acted it well, but then also her character was actually really good and interesting as well. And I loved how she was used in the movie as well. So, and then even this guy Dejmon, I want to say Digimon so bad, or Jimon, I think his name is. His middle name Gaston is pretty easy to pronounce. So Gaston, him as a warrior, and in terms of armed combat and everything, and him fighting Rasputin, that was an awesome scene, by the way. So definitely, guys, go and see it. I won't get too much into it. I gave away quite a bit of stuff, but still not a lot to where it's like, okay, I can't watch this movie or this movie is unwatchable. Definitely, you guys should definitely see it. Jesse, any thoughts in terms of the movies you reviewed, and I'll end the stream here.
No, man, that's really it. Appreciate you for having me on as always. It was a great conversation.
Yeah. Hey, man, guys, as always, man, thank you guys for joining. I appreciate you, you guys all engaging and coming up on the panels and things like that. For those that did come up, Ed, Tavon, Jesse, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys in the chat and everything. Those were all great movies, man. I spent all my last half of the day. I was there from 4 p.m. till 12:45 watching nothing but movies. And I enjoyed every bit of it in terms of the movies that were out. Spiderman was amazing. Matrix was a good foundation and starting point. And then the Kingsman also was a good movie. Probably a good DVD stream movie as well when it comes out on streaming platforms. So that's definitely one that you could wait on, but would be good to watch in the comfort of your own home. The theater here is not that great at in my town. So if you have a really good theater, like the problem with the theater that I have is that you could hear the AC more than you heard the actual the sound system and everything. And I mean, I like the ventilation, but Jesus,
you know, or the air circulation. But Jesus, the AC was so damn loud, it was kind of hard to like. It wasn't that great in terms of sound and what they did. It's an older movie theater though. But hey, these movies are great, guys. Go and watch them if you haven't, and definitely like Spider-Man. And I can't wait for you know, Doctor Strange. One thing I didn't notice or I didn't know is that the Doctor Strange Universe of Madness was supposed to come out before this current Spider-Man, and they had to change things up because of COVID and a couple other things. So they actually really tied this story in very well in terms of some of the changes that they had to make with the Spider-Man movie. So I think that's definitely something, an interesting fact or tidbit in terms of the chronological order of these movies. You know, Doctor Strange into the Universe of Madness and everything. I think that's going to be a good one. Also, the next one of the next movies that was touched on was, I think, Morbius, Dr. Morbius. I think that's going to be good. I never heard of that character before personally. So I think that's going to be cool. One thing that'd be nice is if we could see another Constantine movie and bring that back as well as, you know, the DC version of Dr. Morbius, if you will. So if they could bring back Constantine, that would be pretty awesome. Because Constantine is in the DC universe, from what I remember. Yeah, I think it's DC universe. But yeah, man. Oh, okay. I you got my Plex access, bro. I got you. Yeah, man. I got to get on your Plex, bro. And I probably should do something like that. Guys, as always, you know, for those that listen or are listening to playback, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you enjoyed our take and our look at some of these movies and the perspectives that we had on them. There's guys that have somebody like Tavon, who's been a long-time fan of the Spider-Man series, and also looks like Spider-Man or Miles Morales a little bit, just like an older version of him. So I think that was really cool. Getting his perspective and also Ed's perspective as well, and Jesse's. So like all of us coming together and thinking about these movies and thinking past, you know, just the enjoyment and the shallow depth that most people, you know, get into, and going a little bit deeper with these movies and what it means. All right. Thanks as always. Appreciate you. Have a good night. Peace.